A Build Hatch developed production.
Hello, I'm Aaron Kyle and welcome to another episode of Build Hatch. This week's episode of Build Hatch is an interesting one. As you all well know by now, I'm absolutely fascinated on what goes on behind the scenes in building and construction. So this week on Build Hatch, we decided to go behind the scenes with Accomplice Media. For those who don't know Chris and his team are often behind the scenes in video and content creation. Chris's work has often featured some of the amazing guests that we have sat down and talked to on this very same show. Chris has developed his very own affordable and accessible video content offering customized solutions to suit builders, tradies, designers and property developers. And he does an amazing job. So let's get into it. Chris from Accomplice Media, welcome to Build Hatch.
Thanks for having me.
That's all right. Now this is really exciting because we always like to go behind the scenes, and we're literally going behind the scenes with you because you're always behind the scenes. Your business is called Accomplice Media, and those that are listening to this might know you or your name's familiar because you're often out there behind the scenes with construction people. So
Yes.
Tell us about Accomplice Media.
So we've been running, I think this is our second year as specialty construction content creators. So yeah, I was freelancing for a few years before that and then struck gold with getting in with Elevate Building Group, and that's really just snowballed things in the construction game really.
Now speaking of Elevate Building Group, we're actually recording this in Maddie's construction project. So it was trades around, working around us. We're in the kitchen, so we haven't quite got the bench top in, but looks like it's not too far away, and excellent build as usual. So he does a great job, Maddie.
Yeah.
All right, so like all our guests, we always like to go back in history, where it all began. So whereabouts did you grow up?
Grew up in New Zealand, been over in Melbourne a bit over 10, close to 11 years now. Studied my Bachelor of Media Arts back home. Ended up working in TV for 5 or 6 years, and then eventually made the move into film, and that really opened my eyes to how the film industry is. Working on a big film set, so they had kind of $12 million budget, I think. So that's decent for a feature film. And I was a runner, and so that basically means I was everyone's slave, basically.
You're the gopher.
Yeah. So I did that, and that kind of showed me that film wasn't probably the right fit for me. And so I got back into TV, and then made the move over here. So found the transition interesting. TV is a very hard game to get into if you don't know anyone.
It's very clicky.
It is. They don't advertise too much. They prefer to hire contractors, internally, that type of thing. So, if you're struggling to get in, it's hard to get a look in. So, ended up delivering milk to make ends meet. So
taking it back just a little step, what brought you over here from New Zealand?
So originally it was for hockey. My wife used to play pretty high level stuff back in New Zealand, so she was development for the Black Sticks, and she just wanted to change, different environment. So we put the feelers out on Facebook, and friends of ours or family friends of theirs reached out and said, if you move to Melbourne, we can put you up. So accommodation sorted, car sorted, do coaching, so effectively a job through hockey or in return for playing for the club. So
yeah, great. It's very sort of positive and really collaborative and very generous.
Yeah, hockey's a very tight-knit little sport, so they make you feel welcome, that's for sure.
All right, so that brought you over here, and then you obviously had a bit like builders or trades, you had this craft. You're effectively a tradesman, you're taught how to use machinery and tools and put things together. So what did you do from there?
So we arrived, and I struggled to get work originally, and so ended up delivering milk, just to make ends meet basically. And so did that for kind of 6 years. Eventually just got burnt out from it. 3 a.m.'s a real hard time to drag yourself out of bed, especially when you're doing a hard physical labour.
I don't blame you. I mean, I'm an early riser, like 4 o'clock or 3:58, but 3 a.m. That's really pushing it.
Yeah. So I'd done it for long enough, and it was just I was just exhausted from it. So politely asked my wife if I could step out and go freelancing, and she was very hesitant to start with.
Did you have kids at the time?
Our first son had just arrived, so this is probably a month after he arrived.
A lot of pressure.
Well, yeah, it kind of stemmed from, like, it took us 7 years to get pregnant, and so we always wanted kids, and he arrived, and as I'm kind of dreaming of what his future's going to look like, telling myself he can achieve anything, yet I'm not stepping out and being bold enough to try the things that I want to achieve. And once I got that thought in my head, it just haunted me. And so plucked up the courage to talk to the wife and say, look, I want to go freelancing. Can we try it at least? And she was very hesitant at the start, and
which is tough at that period in your life.
Yeah.
Like you've got nappies coming and all sorts of things with the expenses
Yeah.
that come with having a baby.
Exactly. So, yeah, it probably wasn't ideal timing, but I don't think there ever is the ideal time to step out.
If you didn't, then there'd be some other, you'd have another kid or
Exactly.
the kid starting school or something.
Yeah, there's always something that's in the way of pursuing something. So, yeah, we did it, bit to the bullet, and, went freelancing. And how
did you do that? Like, did you think, I need to come up with an ad or I need to approach someone?
Well, I was delivering to cafes. So this was my original plan, just making contacts through the cafe industry, basically. And so kind of 3 contracts that were looking like they were going to turn into something, and they didn't, basically. So I quit my job, went freelancing, thinking I had all this little bit of work lined up, and then they just disappeared and nothing turned out. So the first year was pretty hard. You just networking. You're trying to get in front of as many people as you can to try and say, hey, this is my service. Let's, try and shoot something. And the first 2 years were just ugly. So.
And how long ago was this?
So this is 4 years ago now.
4 years ago.
Yep.
So social media was probably at a good time.
It was starting to get a lot more traction. Yeah. Had a few ideas of what I wanted to achieve, but was just looking for ways, any way to kind of get the ball rolling with things. So
you're sort of looking at sort of hospitality businesses.
Yeah.
And what about construction? When did that come into the mix?
Construction was always, my original idea was selling a miniature version of grand designs to architects. So documenting the builds coming together, effectively grand designs on a miniature scale, on a miniature budget. And so I had a few bites from a few architects, but nothing really stuck. And it took me about 18 months to land Elevate Building Group. So just through messages, DMs through Instagram, kept on him, basically. A few phone calls here and there once I got his number, but in the end it was really, Matt was on the block for 2019, and he had a few contra deals on the side, and he really came back to me and was like, "Nah, let's roll. I'm ready.
Let's work together."
Yeah, he was in the right place in terms of business, and me and him nutted out this subscription idea. So not everyone can afford to bring in a freelancer to document things coming together. So me and him kind of had the conversation around, what would it look like if we created a monthly contract, so ongoing, thinking long-term, regular site updates, videos, photos, boomerangs, like any other content that we can kind of dream up. It was just a idea that we were just processing at the start, and then the more that the content got out there, kind of spoke for itself, and people got interested and were like, oh wow, so this is achievable. It kind of got the ball rolling, and it's been rolling ever since, really. So
look, as I mentioned before, I see similar parallels with someone in the building industry, so you're chasing that great white shark, that client, the big fish that you can kind of anchor with, and you may not make a lot of money, and it might not be an entirely profitable project, but if you land that project, build a good relationship with the client, then that will rub off, word of mouth referral, their social media, their network. It just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Yeah. Even the tender process. So we'll throw in 3 videos of whatever it is. Like I had a contract with a demolitions company. And so he was like, we can piggyback off the back of this content if we get in with the right builder. So to get their attention, he was like, we'll bring the camera crew along. And it just works, really.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Everyone needs content. So, yeah.
So you had this idea of packaging together something that could appeal to all levels of builders, the high-end builders.
It was more looking at a like what made sense from a business point. Like I was saying, not everyone can afford to bring in a freelancer that's going to charge you, $3-4 grand for a video, but they can afford $1,500 a month for regular video content. So that was kind of where we kind of thought there might be a business model there, and there definitely is. So.
And so you kind of package it together and say, well, look, this could look like a full day, or it could be a certain amount of site visits.
I work out how many hours are involved with what content they need, and then basically I still have my freelance rate, which is quite high, but I make it more affordable in return for not having to reach out for sales and that type of thing. So it's
repeat business.
Yeah, repeat business. Yeah.
And that's, for the people listening to this, that's what it's all about. And as I say, there's similar parallels with your craft in the construction industry. It's the same principles that apply. So what's your favourite part of the job?
Definitely editing, how you basically bring the story together and tell it, because you can push that any way you like, whether it's the details of how the craftsmen work, or is it the details of how the building looks. That's the interesting part. Like, if you don't know how to edit, the videos just look different. They don't quite make sense. But if you can get editing right, you can blow people away.
It actually reminded me what you were just talking about then, is going back about that period of time where, say, pick on an architectural practice, they would probably send one of their junior grads or one of their receptionists out on the site with and they do an okay job, but it's not. You can tell the difference between the professionals and the amateurs.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are shot on an iPhone, and iPhone produces a pretty good image, but you can do so much more with a proper camera. And
that's right.
Yeah, you put that in the right hands, you're away laughing, really.
And you also operate a drone as well?
Yep, got drones, got multiple cameras, we've got 360 cameras, we've got GoPros, we've got audio equipment, we've got everything. So,
and I've seen a fair bit of it because we've, luckily enough to, work together on some of these shows. So what's the coolest thing about like camera that people don't normally see behind the scenes? Like is there some little trick or gimmick that, you think, well, that's like light or sound?
Probably.
Like, what's the difference between a pro like yourself and an amateur?
I guess it's just like how you pick out shots. So where you find the action, how you frame that action, that's really where the difference is. Audio goes a long way. So if you can correctly capture audio at the same time.
And that's probably one of the hardest bits, isn't it?
It takes a lot of effort, a lot of thought to get.
Yeah, a lot of time and effort behind the scenes in editing. And like, can you cast your mind back to some really cool shots or really cool scenarios? Like concrete pours, you do a fair bit of those?
I do a fair few concrete pours.
That's probably, there's a lot of action going on
but
on concrete days, isn't there?
I find it can get really repetitive. Like we always try and make our content different for each client, and that can be done in a whole host of ways, whether it's graphics or shots or whatever is involved.
That's probably the greatest challenge I'd imagine for you in your business, because there's only so many times you can watch a concrete coming out of a pump hose.
We've definitely got a style, but it's creating that diversity. Like that's where we really earn our money. creating a product that is unique to someone's brand, that still feels like it's one of our videos, but is different to other videos that we're producing for other clients. Like when you specialize in a field like this, sure, you're going to have a lot of people come to you, but you can only stretch yourself so far making things look unique to specific brands. But there's heaps of ways, there's heaps of techniques that you can apply to create that diversity.
When you're not on a construction site like this and having a chat with people like myself or all the other professionals in the construction industry, what do you like to do outside of work?
So outside of work, well, life's pretty chaotic for us. We've got 1-year-old twins at home, so
that is extremely busy.
It's the hobbies have been put on the back burner, that's for sure. So primarily focused on the twins at this stage. The business is going really well, so
it must be fun. I'm trying to think of, like, there's challenges with all businesses, of course, but going back to those early days where you studied your craft, found it very difficult to create a bit of a niche for yourself and a position. It must be nice to see that you've gone on to build something for yourself.
Totally.
Just through, as I said, that big fish, and then leapfrogging from just a really good client that you can just network and meet other people. Yeah,
definitely. I guess being a leader in a niche market, it's very unique. So when I try to explain my job to those that aren't in the game, they're like, how do you make a profession out of that? And I'm like, how do you make a profession out of shooting wedding videos? Like, I've got no idea what I'd be doing if I was shooting wedding videos. Like, I get offered wedding videos all the time. It's like, I couldn't think of anything.
A lot of pressure with those.
But just the uniqueness. So the core of the business is the subscription model, and the beautiful, like the best thing with that is that we get to come back to these building sites and again and again and again. So we create transitions from, framing stage to plaster stage and make that look extra fancy and cool and whatnot. And we've got a bit of a reputation for these transitions, but because we get to come back, multiple times throughout the build, we can experiment and try new things. If they don't work, they don't work. The builder's never going to know what I'm trying. But as long as I'm keeping the videos looking great and not dropping any of that quality.
And overlaying the right music and sounds and things like that.
But when I'm trying to get bigger and better than my competition and trying new things and making things look cool, it's a pretty cool industry to work in, to be able to attempt things that if they work, they work, and that you get recognised for it. And if not, no one's going to know.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh, that's that creativity side of things, being able to experiment.
Especially with working for someone like Matt, he's got complete faith in me to produce something. And then when I go above and beyond what he's expecting, it's like, dang, we nailed it with this one. So like our last video for them, we brought in an FPV pilot. So an FPV is a small drone that you can basically fly through trees and that type of thing. We brought out onto site, and he was flying it through the trailer, through frames, underneath the drop saw. Like, no one else is making anything like that. Yeah. This is awesome. So, we love it. Love being on the forefront of getting to try new things in the construction game, basically.
And that's called leading, being a leader and having the foresight to try different things all the time and keep it fresh, really. Yeah. All right, so you've got this wonderful subscription model. Yeah. Do you also have other sort of options? Like if I'm a builder and I want to get you in for the, you talked about the grand designs. Do you have like a model where you can come along and do a final reveal, like a complete? Yeah.
And package? I guess this is how my kind of business coach has kind of shaped my thinking, is that I need to have a full 2, 3, 4, 5 year plan for someone's marketing plan. And so it might start out with doing a grand reveal video of a completed house, and they'll contact me and say, okay, we've finished this project, we want it we want something to display. We want it looking nice. Can you create a video? That's step one. That's meeting their need immediately. But then the next project, they might want to document from start to finish. Like we do one good video for them. Like, okay, well, what else are our options? And so we might shoot from start to finish. So create, 5 videos of a house coming together. And then it's thinking big picture. So how do they want to lead conversations? Like how do they want to position their business within the construction game? Are they wanting to be known for a certain look or a certain style of house, townhouse or whatever it is? And how can our content get them on the front foot with all of that?
Yeah, look, I call that like the nibble, it can be just a little lead, and you could view it as a little annoying little lead of, oh, this is just a small job. I have to get in my car, I have to drive an hour and a half to that job. It's only going to be a one-off, but that's a nibble. It could turn into, that attracts like the big great white shark, the big fish, and that could lead on to something else. And that's the opportunity cost.
Especially in the construction game, people are as loyal as anything.
They are.
If you do a good job, the price they pay for that job soon goes out the window. Like if you meet their need and do the job to a real high standard, they'll continue to use you. And so for me, it's like, okay, well, how can we expand this conversation from you need this covered, or how about we think long term or big picture? What does it look like down the track?
Yeah, it's a similar thing for building businesses and contractors, and they might make 15%, 10%, whatever it might be from that one job.
Yep.
Now, if you hammer that client with variations that end up taking that budget well over what they can afford, where they hate you at the end of it, well, some variations can't be helped. It's just part of the nature of the industry.
Yep.
But what's the difference? Could I annoy this client, make my money, make extra money from it, or if I just treat this as a long-term relationship, that opportunity cost of 10, 15% over 4 or 5 jobs is a lot better than just leaving a sour taste in that client's mouth.
And it's all about having conversations and actually listening to where they are in the scale of things. Like if they've got 2 builds and they know that they're just scraping through, then there's no point hounding them or giving them extra bills that they are, grinding their teeth to pay.
Yes.
It's just being supportive and saying, okay, I'll cover this. Like we'll get it looking to a point that looks amazing. And then on the next one, we'll have a better conversation around what we can actually afford and what the budget might look like on that. Be willing to work with people long term is just, it's far better.
It is. And even yesterday I was talking to someone, about meeting halfway, like if there's clearly something that's not shown and you should have picked it up as a builder, the client's architect or designer should have picked it up. It's about meeting halfway to say, look, here's what I've missed out on. I didn't pick it. I'm happy to pay half if you are within reason. So, all right. So as well as being behind the scenes of leading builders and subbies in the industry, for those that are listening to this or watching this and want to get into contact with you, what's the best way to go about it?
Instagram.
It's all over Instagram.
All about it, yeah. No, Instagram's great. It's the platform that I frequent most. So it's, where to find me.
All right. Well, I've really enjoyed this chat. As I said, it's always good to get it behind the scenes. Yeah. We've literally done that today. So, look, we see each other all the time. So it's always nice to sit down and talk to you. And you always get to hear something else or learn something about the guest that you didn't always know about. Anyone listening to this, get on to Chris and look up Accomplice Media, and he'll look after you with regular and amazing video content.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, mate.
Well, that was another Build Hatch episode with Chris Morgan from Accomplice Media. Like I said at the beginning, I love going behind the scenes, and Chris's work is always varied and interesting. So jump on board with Accomplice Media and check out their work. We have some exciting things coming up this year on Build Hatch. Please do keep the messages and nominations for recommended guests coming through. I absolutely love it. And the Build Hatch community is certainly growing and doing some amazing things in the background behind the scenes. As usual, please check out our Instagram page and other socials where you'll be able to learn more about our guests and the features of the work that we talk about. Have a great week, and you hear me again on the airwaves next week. Thanks for listening to another episode of Build Hatch.
You have experienced a Build Hatch developed production.